The shuttle from Earth landed on the moon called Prime on a quiet morning. The sky was purple, and two suns were rising over the crystal towers of the Galactic Academy. This was a school where students from over 200 different alien species came to learn about each other and live in peace. Cole stepped off the shuttle and took her first breath of alien air. She was 17 years old, with brown hair tied back and strong shoulders from years of playing soccer back home in Ohio. The air was thin here and her lungs had to work harder, but she had trained for 6 months before coming. She was ready. She was the first human to ever attend this school. 8 years ago, humans had made first contact with aliens. Now Earth wanted to join the Galactic Concordance, the big alliance of peaceful species that ruled most of known space. Sending a student to their most famous academy was supposed to show that humans could get along with others. Was that student? The weight of that responsibility sat heavy on her young shoulders. A tall alien with see-through skin came forward to greet her. Through its skin, could see 3 hearts beating slowly. This was Administrator, the head of the school. Behind the Administrator stood 2 massive aliens covered in armor like shells. These were the biggest and strongest species in the Concordance. They worked as guards and peacekeepers everywhere in space. Extended a long tendril toward. She had studied this greeting and knew to shake it gently. The tendril felt cool and smooth in her hand. "Welcome to our academy, Student Cole," said. "We hope you will help build friendship between your people and ours." "Thank you," said. "I am honored to be here." Behind them she could hear other students talking. They thought she could not hear them, but human ears were good. Very good. "Look at the," one whispered. "It seems so small. Is it really dangerous?" "My parent told me their planet has water falling from the sky, just falling on them, out in the open." "That cannot be true. Nothing could live through that." Pretended not to hear. She knew what the galaxy thought about Earth. To these aliens who had evolved on gentle, calm planets, Earth was a horror story. A world with crushing gravity that would flatten them. Temperatures that swung from burning hot to freezing cold. Volcanoes and earthquakes and storms. And worst of all, billions of years of things trying to kill and eat each other until only the strongest survived. Humans were the result of that brutal history, and the galaxy was terrified of them. The scale for dangerous planets went from 1 to 10. Earth was rated 12. They gave a room on the ground floor of a dormitory. The room had been specially built with stronger floors to handle her weight in this gravity. On the form for roommate preferences, no name was listed. No one had wanted to share a room with her. That first night, sat alone on her bed and looked out the window. 3 moons were rising over the campus. The light was soft and beautiful. Somewhere back on Earth, her parents were probably worried about her. Her little brother Jake had cried when she left. She wondered if she had made a mistake. Maybe humans were not ready for this. Maybe she was not ready. But then she thought about what her grandmother had told her before she left. The old woman had said, "Every bridge starts with one person brave enough to take the first step. You be that person. You make us proud." Took a deep breath. She would make this work. The first weeks were hard. She went to classes on galactic history, alien languages, and politics. The teachers were patient with her, but the other students kept their distance. In the dining hall, she learned to eat alone because the sounds her stomach made while digesting food scared the species with sensitive hearing. She exercised early in the morning when no one else was around, because watching a human run apparently triggered fear responses in half the student body. Running was something humans did when they were chasing prey. The other students did not know that, just liked to stay fit. She tried to make friends. She really tried. She smiled at people in the hallways. She offered to help with homework. She learned the greeting gestures of a dozen different species, but always she saw the same look in their many different types of eyes: fear. Then she met. Was a small alien about the size of a house cat, covered in soft fur that changed colors based on emotions. were known across the galaxy for being nervous about everything. They were also known for wanting to be friends with anything that did not immediately try to eat them. Sfur was bright yellow with fear, the first time the little alien approached in the library. "You are the human," said. It was not a question. "Yes," said carefully, "my name is." "I am." The small alien climbed onto the table where was studying. "You have been here for 20 rotations, and you have not eaten anyone." Almost laughed, almost. "I am not going to eat anyone. Humans do not do that." "But you could." "I could do a lot of things. That does not mean I will do them." Sfur shifted from yellow to a thoughtful orange. "That is an interesting way to think about things." From that day on, became something like a friend. The little would find in the library or the gardens and sit nearby, always watching, always curious. Sometimes they would talk about their home planets. Learned that Prime was a world of endless grasslands and gentle winds, where the most dangerous creature was a bird that sometimes stole food from picnics. In return, she told about Earth, about the oceans full of creatures with hundreds of teeth, about storms that could flatten cities, about volcanoes that could bury entire regions in ash, about humans climbing mountains just because the mountains were there, and diving into the deepest parts of the sea just to see what was down there. Sfur turned white with terror during these stories, but the little alien kept asking for more. "Why do you do these things?" asked one day. "Why do you go to dangerous places when you do not have to?" Thought about it. "Because we want to understand everything, because we want to prove that we can, because giving up is not in our nature." "That is terrifying," said. "I know," admitted. "Sometimes it scares me too." 3 months passed, went to class, studied hard, and spent time with. She was not happy exactly, but she was managing. She was building something here, one small step at a time. She did not know that everything was about to change. She did not know that somewhere on the campus, someone was planning something terrible. And she did not know that soon she would have to show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of. The quiet days were ending. The test was coming. It was a rest day at the academy. Most students were relaxing in the recreation areas or visiting the nearby city. The campus was quiet and peaceful under the purple sky. Was walking back from the library with a tablet full of notes for her galactic history exam. The air was warm and she was thinking about her family back on Earth. Her mother had sent a message that morning saying that Jake had won his first soccer game. She was sorry she had missed it. Then she heard the scream. It was high and sharp and full of pure terror. It cut through the quiet air like a knife. It came from the greenhouse, a big glass building where students studied alien plants. Did not think, she just ran. Humans are good at running. For millions of years, her ancestors had chased prey across the grasslands of Africa until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. This ability was still in her blood and her bones. Her legs pumped and her arms swung, and she crossed the courtyard faster than any being at this school could move. She burst through the greenhouse doors and stopped. 3 students were pressed against the far wall. One was fur completely white with fear. One was a named Crest, a being made mostly of flowing water contained in a membrane. One was a young named, who despite being 7 feet tall and covered in natural armor, was shaking with terror. Between them and the exit was a nightmare. The creature stood on 6 legs. It was covered in sharp spines. Its mouth opened in 4 different directions, showing rows and rows of teeth. It was a predator from a quarantined planet. They were considered one of the most dangerous animals in the known galaxy. Had no idea how it had gotten onto the campus, but that did not matter now. There was between the 3 students and the only door. It was slowly moving toward who was the smallest and looked like the easiest prey. For one heartbeat felt fear, real fear, the kind of fear that told her body to run away and save herself. They had not noticed her yet. She could escape. She could go get help. By the time help arrived, her friends would be dead, but she would be safe. The fear lasted one heartbeat. Then something older and deeper rose up from inside her. No, no, she would not run. She would not leave them. Moved. Later, when they reviewed the security footage, the experts could not agree on what they saw. The human girl seemed to disappear from the doorway and reappear between thee and its prey. It happened too fast for the cameras to track properly. Planted herself in front of, and opened her mouth and screamed. It was not a normal scream. It was a war cry dragged up from somewhere deep in human history. Her ancestors had made this sound when facing lions and wolves and enemy tribes. It was a sound that said, "I am not prey. I am the danger here." The stopped. It turned its four-part mouth toward this new thing that was making such a terrible noise. Its simple predator brain was confused. It was an ambush hunter. It was used to prey that ran or froze. It was not used to prey that screamed and stood its ground. Charged. She had no training for this. She had no weapons or armor. She had only 17 years of living on a body built to survive crushing gravity and extreme temperatures, and a stubborn refusal to let her friends die. The swung one of its front legs at her. The leg had spines that could cut through metal, twisted her body, and the spines only grazed her arm instead of cutting it off. Blood began to flow, but she barely noticed. She grabbed the leg that had tried to kill her. Her hands, evolved to grip and climb and build tools, closed around the limb with crushing force. She twisted, using her full body weight and the natural leverage that came from millions of years of evolution. The leg bent the wrong way with a crack that echoed through the greenhouse. The screamed, a predator scream, full of pain and rage. It tried to bite her with its four-part mouth, dropped under the bite and rolled, coming up inside the creature's reach where its mouth could not get to her. She wrapped her legs around its midsection and squeezed. Human legs are powerful. They evolved to walk upright and run for hours and kick with enough force to shatter bone. Its legs tightened around like a constricting snake. The creature's exoskeleton, designed to protect against the hazards of its home planet, began to crack. It tried to throw her off. It spun and bucked and slammed itself against the greenhouse tables. Glass shattered around them. Plants flew everywhere, but held on with the grip of someone whose ancestors had clung to horses and bulls and each other to survive. She squeezed. Its movements became slower, weaker. Its screams became quieter. Finally, it collapsed. When campus security arrived 3 minutes later, they found Cole standing over the unconscious body of a Class 8 predator. She was bleeding from cuts on her arms, her face, her torso. Her clothes were torn. Glass was stuck in her hair. But she was standing, and behind her, 3 terrified students were completely unharmed. The security officers were. They were 8 feet tall and trained for combat. They had weapons designed to handle dangerous creatures. But they stopped in the doorway and stared at the human girl with expressions that their species was not supposed to be capable of making. "Student Cole," the lead officer finally said, "you need to come with us." Looked at the unconscious, then at her bleeding arms, then at her friends who were still pressed against the wall, staring at her like they had never seen her before. "Is everyone okay?" she asked. Made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. "You just fought it with your bare hands, and you are asking if we are okay." "That is what friends do," said simply. The security officers led her out of the greenhouse. As they walked across the campus, students came out of buildings to watch. Word was already spreading. The human girl had done something impossible. The human girl had fought a monster and won. Did not feel like a hero. She felt tired and sore and worried about what would happen next. She had shown the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of. She was afraid of what they would do with that knowledge. They took her to a building on the far edge of campus. It had thick walls and heavy doors. It was where they kept things they were afraid of. They put her in a cell, and for the first time since arriving at the academy, Cole felt truly alone. The cell was clean and white. There was a bed, a small screen with limited access to the school network, and a window that looked out on a small courtyard with purple flowers. It was not uncomfortable, but it was still a cell. Sat on the bed and looked at her arms. The medical device the security officers had used on her wounds was clearly not designed for humans. The cuts had stopped bleeding, but they had not healed properly. Ugly scabs ran from her wrists to her elbows. She had been sitting here for 3 hours. No one had come to explain what was happening. No one had told her if she was in trouble, or if she was being protected, or if she was being held as some kind of threat. When the door finally opened, she straightened up. Administrator came in first. The tall alien with see-through skin looked nervous. All 3 of its hearts were beating faster than normal. Behind the administrator came a that did not recognize. This one was older, with scars on its armored shell and symbols carved into its shoulder plates that meant high military rank. Student Cole said, "This is commander of the Concordance peacekeeping force. He wants to ask you some questions about what happened." Nodded, "I will tell you everything. I have nothing to hide." Commander stood very still, studying her with his 4 eyes. Each eye could move independently, and right now all 4 were focused on her. It was not a comfortable feeling. "The creature you fought was a alpha," said. His voice was deep and rough. "A fully grown adult male. They are considered one of the most dangerous predators in known space. My peacekeepers train for 3 years before they are allowed to fight them, and they only fight in teams of 6 or more, with special weapons, with armor." He paused. "You defeated it with your bare hands." "It was not dead when I stopped," said. "I checked. I did not want to kill it unless I had to." Made a sound that might have been surprise. "You showed mercy to a creature that was trying to eat your friends." "It was just doing what its instincts told it to do. It was not evil. It was just hungry." The commander was quiet for a long moment. "How did you know how to fight it? Where did you learn this?" Shrugged. "It hurt. Everything hurt. I did not learn anything. I just reacted. Humans are good at that. When something happens fast, we do not think. We just act. Our bodies remember things our minds have forgotten." "You were not afraid." "I was terrified," said honestly. "But fear does not stop humans. We have a saying on Earth: feel the fear and do it anyway. Our ancestors faced lions and bears and each other for millions of years. The ones who let fear stop them did not survive. The ones who kept going no matter what, they are our grandparents." Tendrils were twitching. "Student Cole, you must understand how this looks to us. You showed abilities that we did not know humans had. Parents of students are already demanding that you be removed from the academy. Some are saying that Earth should not be allowed into the Concordance at all." Something cold settled in stomach. "I saved 3 lives. You showed that you could end many more." The door opened again. 2 security officers came in and stood on either side of bed. "You are being placed in protective custody," Commander said. "Until we can review your situation properly, please do not resist." Looked at the guards, then at, whose hearts were now beating so fast she could see them pulsing through the transparent skin. "I will not resist," she said quietly. "But I want you to know something. I came here to build bridges. I came here because humans want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Everything I did today, I did to protect people I care about. If that makes me a monster in your eyes, then I do not know what else to say." The officers did not take her anywhere. They just left her in the same cell, but now with guards outside her door. She was alone again. An hour later, the door opened and came in. The little's fur was changing colors so fast it looked broken. Yellow fear, green gratitude, orange confusion, white terror, blue affection, all of them flashing across the small body like lights. "You should not be here," said. "No," agreed. "But the guard let me in anyway. Apparently saving a from a is worth something, even from a." Almost smiled. It was the first time she had almost smiled since the greenhouse. "Are you okay?" "You are asking if I am okay. You fought a nightmare creature with nothing but your body and you are asking about me." Climbed onto the bed and sat beside her, small body trembling. "My contacted me. She wanted to know if the stories were true." "What stories?" "About you, about what you did. It is spreading across the network. Everyone is talking about the human girl who killed her with her bare hands." "I did not kill it." "That makes it worse somehow." Fur settled into a thoughtful blue. "My said something strange. She said the galaxy has been waiting for humans for millions of years." Frowned. "What does that mean?" "She said the concordance was built by species that never faced real danger. We are all prey animals, all of us. We evolved on safe planets where the worst threat was bad weather. We built a civilization of peaceful beings because we never had to be anything else." Looked up at her with enormous eyes. "But we always knew deep down that the universe has real dangers, real predators, real threats, and we knew that someday we would have to face them. We just did not know how." "And you think humans are the answer?" "My thinks you might be." Fur shifted to a soft pink. "She said that when she watched the footage of you standing between that and 3 helpless students, she felt something she had never felt before." "What?" Safe stared at her small friend. She did not know what to say to that. She had come to this school hopping to prove that humans could be peaceful members of the galactic community. Instead, she had shown them exactly why Earth was classified as a. "I do not want to scare people," she said finally. "I know," said. "That is why it is going to work." "What is going to work?" "Everything," curled up against side, small and warm and trusting. "The galaxy is changing. You are part of that change. I do not know what is going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year, but I know one thing for certain." "What is that?" "I am glad you are my friend." Put her arm around the little alien and held on tight. Outside the window, the 3 moons were rising over the campus. Somewhere out there, decisions were being made about her future, about humanity's future, about whether the galaxy would welcome them or push them away. She could not control those decisions. All she could control was who she was and what she did. And she knew, deep in her bones, that she had done the right thing. That would have to be enough. 3 days later, stood in the center of the Academy's great chamber. The room was huge, built like a bowl with seats rising up in circles around the central floor. Representatives from 40 different alien species sat in those seats, watching her. The Concordance Council, the leaders of the galactic government, sat on a raised platform at the front, and floating in the air beside her was a hologram of Ambassador from Earth, transmitted across dozens of light years to be here. This was not officially a trial, they kept saying that. This was an evaluation, a review, a discussion about what should happen next. But it felt like a trial, and felt like the accused. Ambassador spoke first. Her hologram flickered slightly, but her voice was clear and strong. "This is absurd." Student Cole acted heroically. She saved 3 lives from a predator that should never have been on campus in the first place. Has anyone figured out how a Class 8 dangerous species got through your security? Administrator shifted uncomfortably. The investigation is ongoing. It appears that was deliberately brought onto campus. A murmur ran through the chamber, deliberately brought. Someone wanted those students dead, continued. Someone smuggled a deadly predator onto a school campus to kill children, and you are putting on trial the girl who stopped it. We are not putting her on trial, said. We are assessing the situation. Student Cole displayed abilities that our security systems are not designed to handle. Many families have expressed concern about having a being of her capabilities on campus with their children. A representative rose from the crowd. Were beings made of flowing water held together by thin membranes. This one's water was swirling with emotion. My offspring was one of the 3 who were saved, the said. I have watched the footage many times. The human girl threw herself between and 3 children. She had no weapon. She had no armor. She did not hesitate for even a moment. If this is what humans are, then I wonder why we did not welcome them sooner. A diplomat responded. He was large even for his species, with gold markings on his shell that showed high status. That is exactly what concerns us. We have seen what one untrained human child can do when provoked. What happens when there are trained human soldiers, human warships, human colonies spreading across space? The chamber erupted in voices. Some agreed with the diplomat. Some had opinions that were somewhere in between. The noise was incredible, dozens of different languages all being translated at once, creating a wall of sound that pressed against from all sides. She stood in the center of it all and said nothing. Her advisors had told her not to speak unless someone asked her a direct question. Humans were hard for most aliens to read. Their faces moved in ways that could be misunderstood. Their voices had tones that could sound threatening when they were not. Better to stay quiet and let others speak for her. So she stood there, alone, and waited. The argument went on for hours. Species that had dealt with humans before spoke about their experiences. Scientists presented data about human biology, human history, human psychology. Diplomats argued about what humanity's admission to the concordance would mean for galactic politics. Through it all kept her face calm and her body still. Inside, she was screaming. Finally, Commander rose from his seat. The chamber fell silent. When a military commander spoke at a civilian hearing, it meant something important. I have spent my career studying threats to the concordance, said. His deep voice filled the room without any need for amplification. I have faced things that are worse than, in all my years of service, I have never seen anything like what Student Cole did in that greenhouse. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. And I have never felt safer than I did watching her stand between that creature and those children. Another murmur, but this one was different, confused, uncertain. Humans are dangerous, continued. This is a fact. We cannot deny it and we should not try, but danger is not the same thing as threat. A star is dangerous. A supernova is dangerous. We do not fear stars because we understand them. We have spent 8 years treating humans as enemies from a distance. Maybe it is time we tried understanding them as friends up close. He turned to look directly at Student Cole. You could have run away. That was not hunting you. It did not even know you were there at first. Why did you fight? His voice came out steady even though her heart was pounding. Because is my friend. Because Crest and were somebody's children. Because humans do not leave people behind. Even when it puts you in danger. Especially then. That is what it means to be human. We protect each other. We protect people who cannot protect themselves. It is in our blood. It is the reason we survived our planet when so many other species did not. Nodded slowly, then he turned back to the council. I move that Student Cole be returned to her studies immediately with no punishment. I also move that the Concordance military begin talks with Earth about working together. If humans will fight like this for strangers, I want them fighting beside us instead of against us. The vote took another hour. Representatives argued and debated and finally cast their decisions into the system. Watched the numbers appear on the screens around the chamber. It was close, much closer than it should have been. But in the end, she was allowed to stay. As the chamber began to empty, Ambassador's hologram flickered beside her. You did well, the ambassador said. I know this was hard. It is not over, replied. This was just one vote, there will be more. Yes, there will always be more, that is how change happens. One vote at a time, one mind at a time, one act of courage at a time, the ambassador smiled. You took the first step, now others will follow. The hologram faded as the transmission ended. stood alone in the emptying chamber. She was free to return to her classes, to her room, to her life at the academy. But something had changed. She could feel it in the air. She could see it in the way the remaining aliens looked at her. Some still saw a monster, but others, for the first time, saw something else. They saw a protector. And in the galaxy, after millions of years of peace built by prey species, that was something entirely new. 2 weeks had passed since the trial. Life at the academy had changed for Cole in ways she never expected. She still went to classes, she still studied in the library, she still ate in the dining hall. But now things were different. Students no longer ran away when they saw her coming. Some still kept their distance, watching her with careful eyes, but others nodded at her in the hallways. A few even tried to talk to her. Word had spread about what she had said at the trial. Humans protect people who cannot protect themselves. That simple idea had traveled across the campus and beyond, spreading through the network to planets she had never heard of. People were talking about humans in a new way. Not just as monsters but as something else, something the galaxy had never seen before. Was in her room studying for an exam when her door chimed. She opened it and found a crowd standing in the hallway. Was at the front, small body practically bouncing with excitement. Behind the little were Crest and the young, and behind them were at least a dozen other students she recognized from her classes. "We are going to the observation deck," said. "There is a comet passing close to the moon tonight. It is supposed to be beautiful. We want you to come with us." It was such a simple invitation, such a normal thing, the kind of thing friends did for each other everywhere in the universe. Felt something warm spread through her chest. I would like that. They walked together across campus, stayed in the middle of the group, surrounded by beings of all different shapes and sizes. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin that changed color or bodies made of water or eyes that could see in spectrums she could not imagine. None of them seemed afraid of her. As they passed through the main courtyard, other students saw them. A few stopped and stared. A group of students from different species, walking together with a human in their midst, chatting and laughing like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was. The observation deck was at the top of the tallest tower on campus. It was a bubble of clear material that let you see in every direction. The moon's surface curved away below them. The gas giant that the moon orbited filled half the sky with swirling bands of orange and red. And above them, the stars were scattered across the darkness like scattered diamonds. They found seats and waited for the comet. Sat beside, fur a happy shade of green. "I got a message from Mai," said. "She wants to meet you. She has invited you to Prime for the break period." Blinked, really. She said anyone who fights with their bare hands to save his family. That is a direct quote. I do not know what to say. Say yes, bumped against her side affectionately. Prime is beautiful, very calm, very peaceful. The most dangerous thing there is a bird that steals food. You would probably be bored. I could use some boredom, admitted. Before she could say more, the door to the observation deck opened. Two walked in, recognized them immediately. They were the security officers who had escorted her to the holding cell after the greenhouse incident, the same ones who had guarded her door for 3 days. She tensed, and around her she felt her new friends do the same. The lead officer walked directly toward her. For a long moment he just stood there, looking down at her with his 4 eyes. His armored face was impossible to read. Then he reached up and removed the badge from his chest. He set it on the floor at its feet. "My name is," he said. "I have served in Concordant security for 30 years. In all that time, I have never questioned my orders. But I questioned them when I put you in that cell. We were not holding you because you had done something wrong. We were holding you because we were afraid of what you are." The other officer stepped forward and did the same thing. His badge clinked against the floor beside his partner's. We are resigning from our positions, continued. We are going to Earth, to learn about humans, to understand what makes your species the way it is. Perhaps someday we can bring that understanding back to our people. Stared at them. You are giving up your careers. We are beginning new ones. His mandibles clicked in what had learned was a smile. The galaxy is changing, Student Cole. You are part of that change. We want to be part of what comes next. He turned and walked out without another word. The other officer followed. The observation deck was silent. Everyone was staring at. Did that just happen? She finally asked. I think so, said. Fur was cycling through colors too fast to identify. I think it is going to keep happening. Through the clear walls of the deck, could see the two former officers walking across the campus toward the shuttle port. Their heavy footsteps left prints in the soft ground. They did not look back. They are really going to Earth, she said softly. Can you blame them? Cresth's voice was bubbling with emotion. I have been thinking about it too, not going to Earth. The gravity would destroy me, but thinking about what it means. All my life I was taught that the galaxy was safe, that the concordance had brought peace to the stars, that there was nothing to fear anymore. This water swirled thoughtfully. But that was never really true, was it? There are out there. There are other dangers we do not even know about yet. We just pretended they did not exist because we did not know how to face them. The young spoke up. His voice was deeper than the last time I'd heard it, growing toward adult tones. My people are supposed to be the protectors of the concordance. We are the biggest, the strongest. But when that came, I froze. I could not move. I just stood there and waited to die. He looked at with something that might have been shame. You are smaller than me, softer. You do not have armor or claws or venom, but you did not freeze. You did not wait. You fought. I was scared too, said quietly. I was terrified. But you fought anyway. That is what I cannot understand. That is what none of us can understand. Shook his massive head. How do you fight when you are afraid? Thought about the question. She thought about her grandmother's words before she left Earth. She thought about her ancestors who had faced lions with spears and sailed across unknown oceans in wooden boats and climbed mountains because they were there. I do not know if I can explain it, she said finally. Humans have always been afraid. Our planet was trying to kill us from the day we evolved. Everything was bigger than us, stronger than us, more dangerous than us. Fear was the only sensible response. She looked around at her friends, at the strange and wonderful beings who had chosen to include her tonight. But somewhere along the way, we learned that fear does not have to stop us. It can push us forward instead. When someone I care about is in danger, the fear becomes fuel. It makes me faster, stronger, more determined. I stop thinking about myself and I start thinking about them. She shrugged. Maybe that is what it means to be human. We are afraid all the time. We just refuse to let it matter. Outside the transparent walls, the comet appeared on the horizon. It was a streak of light against the darkness, trailing ice and fire across the sky. Everyone turned to watch as it arced overhead, beautiful and ancient and utterly indifferent to the small beings watching from below. Watched it pass and thought about the future, about Earth and the concordance and all the changes that were coming, about the two officers who were at this moment boarding a shuttle to a planet that would crush them if they were not careful. The galaxy had been waiting for humans. That is what had said, waiting for protectors, waiting for beings who would fight even when they were scared. Now they had found them. In the years that followed, the story of the girl and the security officers who walked away to understand her became famous. It spread across the network and into history books, and eventually into legend. The officers were never seen in uniform again, but they were seen on Earth, learning to breathe the thick air and walk under the crushing gravity, and understand the strange, soft creatures who had evolved on that impossible world. They were the first, they were not the last. Because that is how change happens, one person at a time, one choice at a time, one act of courage at a time. And sometimes, it starts with a 17-year-old girl from Ohio who refused to let fear stop her from protecting her friends. The galaxy was never quite the same again. And that was exactly as it should be.